Have you ever found yourself lying in bed for hours, not because you're enjoying the rest, but because you just can't seem to find the energy or will to get up and do anything? Maybe you've started questioning yourself, wondering if you're just being lazy or if there's something more going on beneath the surface. Many people are quick to label this behavior as laziness, as if it's simply a lack of motivation or discipline. But what if the truth is far more complex and far more common than most realize? The behaviors we often associate with laziness, fatigue, disinterest, procrastination, withdrawal, can sometimes be symptoms of something deeper, something many are silently struggling with: burnout. Burnout is not just about being tired. It's a profound state of emotional, mental, and physical depletion that builds over time due to prolonged stress and a lack of effective ways to cope with it. And it's not rare. In fact, a major study from 2010 found that nearly 75% of American adults reported experiencing symptoms of burnout, and among those, over 40% described their symptoms as severe. This means that millions of people may be misjudging themselves, or being judged by others, as lazy, when in reality, they're dealing with a chronic state of exhaustion that demands compassion and care, not criticism. Recognizing the difference between burnout and laziness is crucial, not just for understanding ourselves better, but for knowing when and how to seek help. With that in mind, here are 6 clear signs that what you're experiencing might not be laziness at all, but a form of burnout that has gone unnoticed for too long. The first sign is a deep sense of disconnection, from your surroundings, from your loved ones, and even from your own self. You might feel like you're living on autopilot, just going through the motions of daily life without feeling truly present. There may be moments where you barely recognize your own behavior or feel emotionally numb, as if you're observing your life from outside your body. This sensation, known as depersonalization, is often reported by those who have gone through trauma or high-stress situations. It's a psychological defense mechanism, but when it persists, it leaves you feeling hollow, like you've lost touch with who you are. You might feel powerless, stuck, unsure how to reconnect with your purpose or how to regain control of your path. The second sign lies in a shift from motivation to fatigue. Laziness is typically seen as a stable personality trait, someone who consistently avoids effort and ambition. But if you used to be productive, passionate, and driven, and now find yourself unable to focus, constantly tired, or indifferent toward your goals, it's likely not laziness. It's more consistent with burnout. When your inner drive fades despite your past enthusiasm, that's a red flag that something has drained your emotional and physical reserves. This kind of decline doesn't happen without cause. It builds gradually, often unnoticed, until one day you realize you're not the person you used to be. The third sign is the fading of passion. People who are burned out often report that the activities they once loved, their hobbies, talents, studies, or careers, no longer bring them joy. Worse, they might feel frustrated or bitter toward those very things, associating them with stress, pressure, or failure. Something that once inspired you now feels like a burden, and you might avoid it altogether. This isn't laziness, it's a symptom of emotional exhaustion. When your brain and heart are overwhelmed, even the thought of doing something enjoyable can feel draining. This disconnect between who you were and who you've become can be especially painful and confusing. The fourth indicator is a noticeable increase in irritability and mood swings. You might find yourself snapping at others more often, feeling overwhelmed by small inconveniences, or struggling to manage your emotions in situations that never used to bother you. These emotional fluctuations are not just personality quirks, they are red flags that your mind is under significant stress. Burnout affects emotional regulation, making it harder to stay calm, patient, or optimistic. In contrast, someone who is simply lazy tends to appear indifferent or unaffected. They may be disinterested, but not emotionally volatile. If you feel like your emotions are becoming harder to control, this might be burnout manifesting as psychological distress. The fifth sign is the neglect of self-care. This can show up as disrupted eating and sleeping habits, ignoring hygiene and grooming, and withdrawing from social interaction. You may stop exercising, skip meals, or sleep at odd hours. You may feel so overwhelmed that even simple daily tasks, like getting dressed or answering a message, seem too difficult. This level of detachment from one's own well-being is not a choice. It's the result of being mentally and emotionally worn down. What sets burnout apart from laziness is that it's a change in behavior. If you were once active, engaged, and self-aware, but now feel like a shadow of yourself, something is clearly wrong, and it's not your character. It's your condition. Finally, the sixth and most important sign is that these changes don't happen overnight. Burnout evolves over time, often without clear warning signs. Experts have identified 5 key stages: the honeymoon phase, where stress is present but masked by enthusiasm; the onset of stress, where small cracks start to appear, the chronic stress phase, where you begin to struggle with symptoms daily, the full burnout stage, marked by physical and mental exhaustion, and habitual burnout, where this state becomes your default way of living. Most people don't recognize burnout until they're deep into the third or fourth stage, by which point recovery requires more time and effort. That's why it's essential to be aware of the gradual shift in your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. If you catch these signs early, you have a much better chance of reversing the damage before it becomes deeply ingrained. Understanding that burnout is real, common, and different from laziness can shift the way we talk about mental health. Too often, people internalize guilt and shame, believing they're weak or failing because they can't function at their usual level. But burnout is not a personal failure, it's a signal that your system has been under too much pressure for too long. If this sounds like your experience, you are not alone, and you deserve support. Reaching out to a mental health professional, even just to talk, can be the first step toward healing. If someone you know is showing signs of emotional and physical exhaustion, offer them empathy and encouragement, not judgment. If this message has helped you understand your own situation a bit more clearly, or shed light on what someone close to you might be going through, take a moment to share it. We all need reminders that it's okay to slow down, to ask for help, and to admit that we're not invincible. Burnout is not a life sentence. With time, rest, and support, recovery is possible, and it often begins with the simple act of acknowledging that what you're going through is real.